Benjamin Netanyahu, who was taking on favorite enemy Iran, claiming new revelations about its nuclear weapons program. WION's West Asia Bureau Chief Daniele Pagani, however, notes that much of Netanyahu's revelations are old hat and that the International Atomic Energy Agency had documented extensive details of Iran's nuclear program already. Take a look.
The largely pro-Western international media is going to town with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's latest broadside against the Iran nuclear deal.
First, Iran lied about never having a nuclear weapons program. 100,000 secret files prove that they lied. Second, even after the deal, Iran continued to preserve and expand its nuclear weapons know-how for future use. Why would a terrorist regime hide and meticulously catalog its secret nuclear files if not to use them at a later date? Third, Iran lied again in 2015 when it didn't come clean to the IAEA as required by the nuclear deal. And finally, the Iran deal, the nuclear deal, is based on lies. It's based on Iranian lies and Iranian deception. 100,000 files right here prove that they lied.
US President Donald Trump was quick to respond, claiming the intelligence proved his assertion that Iran was cheating and the deal was the worst ever. Ditto his newly appointed Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. But UK, France and Germany, the three European signatories to the Iran deal, are still backing it with enough reason. The existence of Project Ahmad, Iran's designation for the nuclear program, was known to the International Atomic Energy Agency in 2015 when it filed its final assessment on Iran's nuclear capabilities. The IAEA report read, and I quote, "The information indicated that activities commenced in the late 1980s and became focused in the early 2000s within projects in the Ahmad Plan. The agency assesses that before the end of 2003, an organizational structure was in place in Iran suitable for the coordination of a range of activities relevant to the development of a nuclear explosive device. Although some activities took place after 2003, they were not a part of the coordinated effort." Netanyahu said there was now proof that Iran planned to conduct tests and feasibility studies to build nuclear weapons, but the IAEA knew about this too. Their 2015 report read, and I quote, "By November 2011, the agency had received information from member states indicating that prior to 2004 and between 2005 and 2009, Iran had undertaken computer modeling studies of various component agreements which were only specific to nuclear explosive configurations based on implosion technology." Netanyahu's other so-called revelation that Israeli intelligence came to know that Iran had studied how to integrate a nuclear warhead on their Shabab-3 medium-range ballistic missile was known to the IAEA and the US. The body's final report read, and I quote, "Extensive information provided to the agency within the alleged studies documentation prior to November 2011 indicated detailed project work conducted in Iran in 2002-2003 to examine how to integrate a new spherical payload into the existing payload chamber of the re-entry vehicle for the Shabab-3 missile. Many documents still need to be analyzed and further details could emerge. For now, the most relevant discovery is that at a certain point, Iran moved its entire nuclear-related documentation to a secret location, a decision Tehran will need to explain." In Amman, with Daniele Pagani, Bureau Report, WION.
Joining me on the broadcast from Amman in Jordan is WION's West Asia Bureau Chief Daniele Pagani. Daniele, good evening. Thanks for that report. Is there actually anything new in what Israel is claiming to have discovered?
Most of what Benjamin Netanyahu said was already known to the international community and to all the signatories of the Iran nuclear deal, including the United States for that matter. As we said in our report, this is just a small excerpt of what he repeated, because actually the list is way longer. At least 10 of the points that Netanyahu made were already known by the International Agency of Atomic Energy, which is the body which was in charge of writing the final assessment, which was the basis of the Iran nuclear deal. So I would say that largely what he said right now was not new. What is contained in the document might actually provide further details on the real status of Iran's nuclear implementation and Iran's nuclear research for military purposes. There is one question which remains on the table, and the question is why Tehran did try to hide these documents in order to not get them into public domain. So this is a question that Tehran will need somehow to answer.
Absolutely. And you know, the rhetoric from the United States on the Iran nuclear deal has sort of been staccato. We hear from President Trump, then we hear silence. Do you think we need to make note of the timing of Mr. Netanyahu's accusations as well? Why do you think this is happening right now?
I definitely agree. We do need to take note about what is happening. Remember that Mike Pompeo, the newly elected Secretary of State of the United States, was here in Amman 24 hours ago, and prior to this he was in Saudi Arabia, and he also met Netanyahu, and they have been talking largely about Iran and the threat that, according to them, Iran poses to West Asia. Donald Trump has been very vocal in saying that the Iran nuclear deal is the worst deal ever, and he is very much willing to walk away. Remember, on the 12th of May, he's going to take a final call on whether the United States will remain or not in this agreement. So the timing is definitely not something which is happening by chance, but it's something very much calculated. Also, we know that this kind of information that Netanyahu is giving to public domain was known by the United States since March, at least. So they decided to put it out now in order to, I would say, drum up the rhetoric against Iran and perhaps prepare the exit of the United States from the nuclear deal.
Absolutely. And of course, you know, France's own president has been speaking about the nuclear deal when he was in the US. Stay with me a second, Daniele, since you did bring up the fact that the rhetoric has been ongoing. Just to give you an idea of what's happening when it comes to other parties and how they've reacted to the Israeli Prime Minister's accusations. First of all, Benjamin Netanyahu is no stranger to using visual props for his big-ticket presentations, and Monday's PowerPoint on why he thinks Iran has run afoul of the 2015 nuclear deal was no exception either. But beyond the United States, the Silicon Valley-style big reveal didn't get the response Bibi was probably looking for. The UN atomic watchdog, for instance, has declined to directly address Mr. Netanyahu's accusations, saying, quote, "In line with standard IAEA practice, the IAEA evaluates all safeguards, the relevant information available to it. However, it is not the practice of the IAEA to publicly discuss issues related to any such information," end quote. Now, as far as the statement from France goes, it took things a little further. In light of Mr. Netanyahu's allegations, its foreign ministry spokesperson said, quote, "This information should be studied and evaluated in detail. The new information presented by Israel could also confirm the need for longer-term assurances on the Iranian program as the president has proposed," end quote. Remember, the United Kingdom has also made a similar statement. Now, the newly appointed U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave an expected thumbs up to Israel's allegations, but even he declined to say whether the documents were evidence of Iran violating the nuclear deal. Despite the hype, some experts and diplomats felt Netanyahu's presentation lacked the smoking gun appeal of a blockbuster revelation. However, there was consensus that it could strengthen Trump's demand to scrap the deal.
I think that the publication by Prime Minister Netanyahu and its timing was aimed not to pressure President Trump, but to support a decision that was already made by the president. I know that National Security Advisor Bolton has said that the president has not yet made his decision, but my sources in Israeli administration and intelligence claim that they understood from their American counterpart.
Daniele Pagani continues to be with us on the broadcast from Amman. Daniele, keeping everything in mind in terms of what we've heard as far as Israel and the US rhetoric on Iran goes, do you think that the risk of a conflict runs high at this point?
My personal understanding and reading of the situation is that actually, despite the very, warlike rhetoric, we're not going towards a direct confrontation between Iran on one side and allies they might find, and Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United States on the other side. It's too dangerous for all the parties to start a direct conflict, which could eventually turn into the Third World War, truly this time. What perhaps Netanyahu is trying to do is, A, to present to the world the decision which the analysts we've just heard say that it has already been made by Donald Trump to walk away from the deal like a heroic and needed decision. Second, remember that Israel is conducting a parallel war in Syria, so the fact that according to Israel, Iran is acting and breaching the agreement of the nuclear deal kind of provides political political armor, I would say, for Israel to conduct its operations. So no, I would say that this is to put pressure on Tehran, to tell Tehran that they know what Tehran has been doing for years, that they have their documents, and not to retaliate when it comes to attacks within Syrian territories conducted by Israel, and not also to retaliate eventually if Trump decides to walk away from the deal. It's a game of chess, I would say, very high-level tactic.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it at that. Daniele, thank you for giving us that perspective from West Asia. It's a story that we're going to keep a track of course.